Going to call the business meeting to order. Welcome, one and all. I want to thank our staffs for your work in helping to bring us to this day. And I want to thank Michael Regan for his willingness to serve in this capacity and for his family's willingness to share him with all of us. Today we'll be considering his nomination to serve as Administrator of EPA, and we'll also be considering today our committee's funding resolution and committee rules, which we've worked out with Senator Capito and her staff. Thank you very much. Before we get started, I just want to begin by welcoming, they're not all here, but I want to go ahead and welcome each of the new members of our committee. Those new members include Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona, Senator Cynthia Lummis of Wyoming, Senator Alex Padilla, of California, Senator Debbie Stabenow of Michigan. We welcome one and all. Debbie and I came to the Senate together in 2001. And Michigan State, Ohio State, you think we'd be on different wavelengths, but we've been partners on a lot of stuff and enjoyed working with you in your leadership role in ag and welcome you here today to this committee. Senator Capito and I have agreed that we'll begin voting promptly at around 10:15 or as soon as we have established a quorum. At that time, we'll hit the pause button with respect to members' statements and proceed straight to the items on our agenda. I'll be happy to recognize any member who still wishes to speak after the voting concludes. Now let's turn to the business at hand. I want to begin by saying a few words about Michael Regan. As I noted during our hearing last week, I believe he is the right person to lead EPA during this critical time in our nation's history. He is a man of deep faith who believes, as we all do, that we have a moral obligation to be good stewards of this planet on which we live together. I believe that Michael Regan is someone who can help unite us in common purpose. That's what he did in North Carolina. And as an honest and thoughtful public servant, he brought people together to find solutions to some of the Tar Heel State's most pressing environmental challenges. I believe he's fully capable of doing that again as EPA Administrator, working with all of us to address climate change and protect our air, our water, our natural resources, while helping to create good, paying jobs for the American people and strengthening our economy. And he's going to make sure that all of our communities and neighbors can be part of that progress. Let me also speak briefly about the other two items on our agenda, the committee's funding resolution, as well as the rules that govern our committee's conduct. The Senate has only experienced an evenly divided Senate 3 times before in our history. One in 1881, again in 1953, and again when Senator Stabenow and I were rookies here in the Senate in 2001. Our committee's funding resolution and rules reflect the equal representation of the parties on EPW and are consistent with the Senate Resolution 27 as agreed to by Senators Schumer and McConnell. I want to personally thank Senator Capito, along with the members of the committee's minority staff, for working with the members of the majority staff and with me to reach a reasonable agreement in a very timely manner. For the new members who joined us, we have a history on this committee of working across the aisle, so I'm not surprised that we were able to reach agreement on the rules and on the committee's funding that is consistent with our 2001 precedent so early in this Congress. As we've done in the past, we'll revisit our rules and budget should the balance of power shift later on in the Senate. Let me also take a moment to share with our members this morning that we are taking important action today with respect to our subcommittees, at least the naming of our subcommittees, and we're renaming 2 of them, I think as most of you know. We're adding the word climate back into Clean Air, Climate, and Nuclear Safety Subcommittee. And we're also adding the words Chemical Safety and Environmental Justice to our Superfund subcommittee name, which will become the Subcommittee on Chemical Safety, Waste Management, Environmental Justice, and regulatory oversight. These changes are an important reflection of the direction our committee will take in 2021 as we work together to address some of the biggest challenges of our day. Those challenges include finding real solutions to climate change that create and protect good-paying jobs. They also include ensuring that we keep the golden rule in mind when we develop new laws or modify existing ones, so that all communities, and that includes communities of color and low-income communities, along with rural and urban communities, receive just and equal treatment under the law that we craft. And with that said, let me now recognize our ranking member, Senator Capito, for any comments that she might wish to make this morning. And I also want to say, I think we set a record a week or so ago when we had a hearing. We actually had, during the course of the hearing, John Barrasso started off as the chair. He handed it off to Shelley. And about 20 minutes before the end of our hearing, the Senate adopted an organizing resolution to make me the committee chair. So I was like, I think they call that a troika or something like that. But you did a great job, and I'm delighted to be sitting next to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator Carper. Thank you for my hour and a half of fame as the chair of this committee. I enjoyed it, I must admit. But congratulations to you on your new role. I know you'll be great. And we've already had a great relationship anyway, but I think that it bodes well for the future for the committee. We've talked more than several times, and we will continue that, obviously, every week and hopefully more frequently than that. So I also join you in welcoming our 5 new members. I'm very grateful to have Senator Stabenow, Senator Kelly, and Senator Padilla, who I actually haven't met yet, so I've got to get down there and get to know you a lot better, but welcome. And then on the Republican side, Senator Graham, who's not here, who is very interested in looking at issues particularly pertaining to nuclear energy and the state highway system and ports. He's expressed that interest. And also my former House colleague, Senator Cynthia Lummis, who will be filling the shoes of Senator Barrasso on this committee, and her great work at the National Resources Committee in the House is very, very much appreciated, and her wealth of knowledge. So I look forward to seeing how we move forward. So now on to today's business, and I'm going to flip the way I'm speaking, so just to make it interesting, I hope. The committee rules and budget we will adopt today give us the opportunity to operate in a balanced and bipartisan way. We really didn't have any problems that I was made aware of in terms of trying to figure out the best way to develop the rules and that are informed by precedent. And Mr. Chairman, I thank you and your staff, your very able staff, for working, and mine as well. We have a split committee, as you noted, and the last time we had that split, as you noted as well, was in 2001. Consistent with 2001, both parties will have an equal number of non-federal witnesses at each hearing. Chairman Carper and I will evenly balance the interests of the 2 parties in setting hearing topics and markup agendas. The rules will likely need to be revisited, and Senator Carper said this in his statement, but we're saying it twice for emphasis. When we cease to have an equally divided Senate, just as the committee did in July of 2001, once the 50-50 split ended. Today, we also consider our committee's proposed budget, which includes a modest increase from last Congress for COLAs, oversight activities, and to pay our committee interns, which I think most of us in our personal offices are already doing that. I'm happy to know that we're going to be doing that here in the committee. Makes a whole lot of sense, and I think it spreads the opportunity to a lot more people. It represents a reasonable request that will provide the resources we need to do the committee's important work. I support adoption of the committee rules and of the committee budget. Finally, we are also here to consider Michael Regan's nomination to be the administrator at the Environmental Protection Agency. I appreciate the several conversations that I've had with Secretary Regan. He has been very open and forthright and reaching out, I think, to all of us, and I particularly am grateful for that. As Senator Burrs and Tillis noted in their introduction, Senator Regan has been an accessible regulator to the people of North Carolina, and that deserves praise. As an individual, he is absolutely the type of person that I would like to see leading a federal agency. Here's the but. But, unfortunately, officials in place at the White House and at the EPA have already set the agenda before he even achieves the office. These decisions were made before Mr. Regan, who will be the Senate-confirmed probably leader on environmental policy, even before he had his nomination hearing. Staff was already in place, busy implementing what I feel are misguided and unthoughtful executive order. It is unclear whether Secretary Regan, if confirmed, would have any authority or have the authority to stop the regulatory march towards the Green New Deal. Gina McCarthy, EPA administrator during the President Obama's administration, is at the White House with an all-encompassing role as the climate czar. Janet McCabe, who led efforts to establish the illegal Clean Power Plan, has been nominated to be the deputy EPA administrator. It is unclear whether Secretary Regan wants to set out on a different policy course from McCarthy and McCabe that they took during the Obama administration. I appreciate the commitments that he made to visit West Virginia, and we all joke that he sounds like he may be visiting the entire country and other energy-producing states. And I embrace that. We were basically ignored in the past administrations. But on key policies, he has not committed to a different course. He did not rule out a return to the Clean Power Plan or something like it. Secretary Regan would not say whether EPA would again claim overreaching authority to force states to shift electricity generation sources. Secretary Regan also did not commit to preserve the Navigable Waters Protection Rule. He could not rule out a return to the Obama administration's 2015 WOTUS rule or something like it. Without clear commitments to oppose some policies that would economically devastate my state, I cannot support him. I can tell you that he is a good man, as our chairman said, a good family man, really an inspiration, I think, for many young people, and a great public servant. I hope that if confirmed, he will stand up to those who work to implement policies that leave behind working families in energy-producing states like mine. I cannot understate the hurt they have felt during the Obama administration's EPA policies. At an August 2016 Energy and Natural Resources Committee field hearing in Morgantown, West Virginia, WVU economist Dr. John Deskins testified. His quote, "The deep decline in coal production in recent years has had a devastating effect on our state's economy," quote. He told us in the final year of the Obama administration that the loss of energy jobs had created a Great Depression in 6 southern West Virginia counties, and one of those may be the county in which you were born. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, in her recent confirmation hearing, referenced, and I quote, "the permanent scarring that is associated with job loss and unemployment that can harm the economy over the longer term. We cannot return to a third term of the Obama administration policies at the EPA that will lead to job loss, economic harm, and more permanent scarring. Based on my strong opposition to that policy agenda and the staff that is already in place, I will vote no on Secretary Regan's nomination and confirmation today. I encourage the President not to box his future nominees into a predetermined policy agenda that's already been determined by staff that he has put in place." With that, I yield back to you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you, Madam.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please, go ahead.
I want an inquiry here. We're going to be voting, I assume you changed the agenda, so it's going to be the first thing we're going to do is be voting on Mr. Regan. Let me kind of make one statement.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I think the world of Michael Regan, and I was going to make a statement, although Senator Capito made exactly the statement I was going to make. And the problem I have is the agenda that he'll be following, and I know that he will be doing this, is contrary to the things that we believe in Oklahoma. So while he is unquestionably a qualified individual, and I think the world of him as an individual, I will be voting against him for that reason. I've been trying to reach him since 9:30 this morning to tell him that, and was not able to do that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks very much. It's 10:15 now. I just want to say something if I can. We talk a lot about doing good things for our planet, addressing climate change, clean air, clean water, and doing so in ways that create economic opportunity. I just want you to know, Senator Capito and I have already begun conversation, along with Senator Manchin, about actually doing something real, particularly for West Virginia, one of the hardest hit states, including my native state, for job creation. It's very sad you go there to see what has happened to the economy and the communities in which my sister and I were born and raised. And as it turns out, Charlie Dent, so many of you know Charlie Dent, congressman from Pennsylvania. Charlie Dent is now in charge of the Aspen Institute, the congressional arm. I talked to him, after having talked to Senator Capito about the possibility of Aspen Institute hosting maybe a 2-day workshop at the University of West Virginia in Morgantown early this spring that focuses on what kind of jobs can be created for the people whose jobs have been displaced, who've lost their jobs. What can we be doing to make sure that they have good jobs to go to, and to put to really get started on this right out of the starting gate? And I just wanted to share that with all of you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and do the vote, and if others would like to be recognized and speak once we've completed the vote, we'll be happy to recognize you. Thank you all for coming. We're going to have a good time together in the next couple of years, and we're going to get a heck of a lot done. Thank you all. All right. Now I'd like to call up presidential nomination 7816, Michael Regan of North Carolina, to be Administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency. And I move to approve and report the nomination favorably to the Senate. Is there a second? I hear a second. The clerk will call the roll.
No.
Aye.
Aye by proxy. Nay by proxy. Aye by proxy.
Aye. Aye. We have approved by a margin of 14-6 the nomination of Michael Regan to be Administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency, which will be reported to the full Senate. And I'm now moved to approve the committee budget resolution and the committee rules en bloc. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Depending on the chairs, the ayes have it. We have approved the committee's budget resolution and the committee rules, which will be reported favorably to the Senate. The voting portion of this meeting is concluded, and I'm now happy to recognize any member who wishes to make a statement on the nomination of Michael Regan or the committee resolutions that we have just approved. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Would anyone like to be recognized?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please. Senator Whitehouse.
I hadn't planned to say anything, but when I heard the comments this morning, I just want to emphasize that if you're talking about permanent scarring, what we're doing to this planet with carbon emissions portends permanent scarring of our oceans, permanent scarring of the fisheries that Rhode Islanders depend on, permanent scarring of our very coastline. We are looking at having to redraw the map of Rhode Island because we are blocked in Congress from handling this problem. The permanent scarring of our atmosphere has been chronicled in a recent, really good, actually, article in the Atlantic magazine, going back through the geologic and anthropologic record of what it was like on this planet when we were hitting the benchmarks that we're either at or will hit for carbon dioxide concentration in the years ahead. If you want to talk about economic harm, read Freddie Mac's report about coastal property value crash. That's not a green organization. Read, what is it now, 40 central banks, all of whom have warned of systemic harm, which is global economic harm from carbon harm and related misinvestment. The Fed, even under the Trump administration, a couple of the local feds wrote similar reports. The warnings of economic harm, really grievous economic harm, are loud and clear. And if you want to know what it feels like to not be listened to, try being a Democrat in the Trump administration. So I feel the pain on the other side, and we will try, I promise you, to do a much better job of listening to you and solving local economic pain than the Trump administration and you did for the past 4 years to us.
Sure. Senator Capito.
Yeah, I think I appreciate the comments from my friend Senator Whitehouse. I think if you look what we did during the Trump administration on our 45Q, where we worked together, where we found an environment and an economic win in terms of CCUS for coal, I think those are examples of where you're creating jobs and getting an environmental outcome at the same time. I know that you're familiar with my home state of West Virginia because we've talked about that. I think that the permanent scarring of poverty, drug abuse, joblessness, depression, hopelessness cannot be forgotten as it was during I think I have a good leg to stand on this because I live there. I've seen it.
No, I appreciate that.
And we have not recovered from it. So we're not in denial here. We're not saying don't move forward with things of cleaning the air and cleaning the water and helping your particular state, which understandably, right at the tip there, is going to feel it first and the hardest. As our friends in Alaska, Senators Murkowski and Sullivan talk about quite passionately. So let's work together on this. Let's not, I'll make a deal with you. I'll make a deal with you. If I erase one painful comment from the Obama administration, you can erase one painful comment from a Trump administration, and we'll be on at least a little more united in what I think we do have shared goals. So thank you.
I appreciate that. I look forward to working with the ranking member on this. I know her sincerity, and we get along personally well, so I appreciate all of those things. But let's just work to support each other's concerns.
Well, I hope we're going to need a lot of erasers as we go down the road. Anyone else? Either of our new members?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Mark, please.
Thank you. I'm glad to be joining the committee, and I look forward to working with you, Ranking Member Capito, and the rest of my colleagues on the committee in the coming months and years. Arizona is a state defined by its natural beauty, and protecting the environment is critical to our economy and to our way of life. Arizonans are counting on Congress to pass a long-term surface transportation bill, protect our scarce water resources, and support investments in good-paying, renewable energy jobs of the future. I'm eager to work on all these issues as a member of the Environment and Public Works Committee. I also want to say a brief word about Michael Regan, whose nomination I supported just now. After listening to his testimony before the committee last week and reviewing his responses to questions that I submitted for the record, I believe Mr. Regan is well qualified and will make decisions in a transparent manner based on the science and in accordance with the law and the mission of the EPA. And I look forward to working with Mr. Regan to ensure that EPA regulations take into account Arizona's unique climate and geography. Too often, EPA regulations have taken a one-size-fits-all approach, which doesn't work for the state of Arizona. From defining dry washes and riverbeds as navigable waters to attempting to regulate naturally occurring dust storms as particulate pollution, Arizonans understand the effects of a poorly targeted environmental regulation. Yet, the past few years have demonstrated that an absent EPA can create just as much confusion and place vulnerable communities at risk. That's why I appreciate Mr. Regan's willingness to work with me to clean up the more than 500 abandoned uranium mines on the Navajo Nation and help improve water and wastewater infrastructure in Arizona's border communities. There's a lot of work to be done to responsibly protect Arizona's environment, and I look forward to working with Mr. Regan to do just that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.
Senator Kelly, we're delighted you're on this committee. You can never have too many Navy guys on a committee that focuses on issues like these. Welcome aboard. Robert
Thank you.
Zilla. Senator Capito, anything else? All right, if there's no one else who'd like to make a comment at this time, I'd ask unanimous consent that the staff have authority to make technical and conforming changes to each of the matters approved today. And I want to thank everyone for their participation in our business meeting, and I especially want to thank our ranking member, Senator Capito, and her staff and our staff for helping make this possible. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.